Repeat these words after me. Remember, O Lord, against the Edomites, the day of Jerusalem's fall. Most of us are only familiar with what we read earlier in the service today, the first 6 verses of Psalm 137. They contain the powerful and immortal words of a people who are in exile, words that have been made into anthems and sacred songs both in North America and in Jamaica. 40 years ago when I was in college, our college choir sang Psalm 137, By the Waters of Babylon. We sat down and wept when we remembered thee, O Zion. 20 years ago, almost everybody in the Caribbean was singing the Jamaican version, By the Waters of Babylon. There we sat down and wept. The captives in Babylon asked the question, how shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? The captives in America answered that question by creating an entirely new genre of music, the spirituals. They sang sorrowfully. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child a long way from home. They sang thoughtfully. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows but Jesus. They sang defiantly, oh freedom, oh freedom, oh freedom over me before I'd be a slave. I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my God and be free. To quote Dr. Martin Luther King, they took Jeremiah's question mark and straightened it out into an exclamation point. Jeremiah, who saw his people in exile, asks the question, is there no balm in Gilead? The Africans who were in exile in a strange land sang, oh yes, there is a balm in Gilead. The exiles in Psalm 137 ask the question, how can we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? The Africans in exile in America answered that question and said, I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow and I know he watches me. Psalm 137 is a song that has inspired anthems and spirituals, poems and sermons. Psalm 137 is a song that has inspired the hearts of millions as they have reflected on the beauty and splendor of the city of God, Jerusalem. If I forget you, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning. Let my right hand, the Hebrew says, become useless. Let my right hand, my strength, just wither away. Let my tongue, designed to sing praises, cling to the roof of my mouth. If I do not remember you, O Jerusalem, if I do not set Jerusalem above my highest joy. Most of us are familiar with just that part of Psalm 137. Most of us are only familiar with the first 6 verses of Psalm 137. Most of us have not read or heard the last 3 verses of this song. And most of us, I can guarantee you, have never heard a sermon that touched any of the thoughts or feelings expressed in these last 3 verses. I told Freddie Haynes this week that in all of my years of preaching, I was licensed to preach in May of 1959. I was ordained to preach in January of 1967. And I became a pastor in March of 1972. But in all of my years of preaching, I have never preached a sermon which dealt with these difficult verses, these last 3 verses in Psalm 137, these brutally honest verses, and these verses which express what the people of faith really feel after a day of devastation and senseless death. And that is exactly what these 3 verses express. Now, in our class sessions, on our church study trips, I have lifted up these verses to help our church members understand much of what it is they feel as they have stood in the slave castles in West Africa, as they have stood among the poverty in Ethiopia, stood in the townships of South Africa and stared at the favelas in Salvador da Bahia and Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. African Americans have a surge of emotions as they see the color of poverty in a world of wealth and begin to understand that it is no accident that the world's poorest are one color and the world's richest are another color. And when they tie together the pieces of 500 100 years of colonialism, racism, and slavery with what it is they see in 2001. A surge of emotions hits them, and the last 3 verses of Psalm 137 help them to understand what it is they are feeling. I have treated these verses in a classroom setting and on the study tours that our congregation has taken, but I have never touched them in a sermon. Today, I was telling Freddie Haynes, the Spirit of God has nudged me to touch them and to treat them prayerfully, as many of us try to sort out what it is we are feeling and why it is we are feeling what we feel after the trauma and the tragedy of the attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, symbols of who America is: the money and the military. Some of the feelings we have as people of faith in the 21st century are similar to the feelings that the people of faith had in the 6th century BC. And when you read and study this psalm in its entirety, the parallel between those feelings becomes almost eerily crystal clear. That's why I didn't want you to stop at the famous and familiar verse 6. I wanted you to read, to hear, and to experience all 9 verses of Psalm 137 to get the full scope of what it is this song is saying. Pray with me for just a few moments on the subject, the day of Jerusalem's fall. The day of Jerusalem's fall. The day of Jerusalem's fall. If you got your Bibles with you, turn back to 2 Kings, the 25th chapter. 2 Kings, 25th chapter. In that chapter, there is a graphic description of the carnage and the killings that took place on the day of Jerusalem's fall. The king of Judah, with all of his army, fled. Verse 4. They tried to run, but the army of the Chaldeans pursued the king, captured the king, and literally committed murder. Verse 7 of 2 Kings 25 says they slaughtered, senseless killings. They slaughtered the sons of Zedekiah, made him watch it. Then they put out his eyes. So that would be the last thing he had any visual image of. Like a commercial airliner, a passenger plane slamming into an office building, 2 office buildings, killing thousands for no reason other than hatred. Remember, O Lord, the Edomites, the day of Jerusalem's fall. Verse 8 of 2 Kings 25 says, Nebuzaradan, a soldier in the service of the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and burned. Now get this image clear. Burned. Get it in your mind. He burned the house of the Lord. He burned the king's house. He burned all the houses of Jerusalem. And every great house he burned down. Remember, O Lord, against the Edomites, the day of Jerusalem's fall. All the army of the Chaldeans who were with the captain of the guard broke down the walls of Jerusalem. Now you got to remember the real and the symbolic significance of the walls of Jerusalem. Our choir sings about it. You can read about it when you get home. Most of you just enjoyed the sound of the music and missed the meaning of the words to the music. Read Psalm 48 when you get home. Great is the Lord and greatly to be praised in the city of our God, Jerusalem. Let Mount Zion rejoice, Jerusalem. Let the daughters of Judah be glad. Walk around Zion, that's Jerusalem. Go around